Gacha games have truly peaked when a game lets you adjust the rack size of a character. From a dedicated massage minigame where you have to buy the massage oil, to the uncensored toggle of the game called the Gentle mode, Horizon Walker is the most ridiculous fan service-oriented gacha game I've played. And that's saying something. I was originally going to put this short review in the Dead on Arrival series, as fan service heavy games rarely have much going on for it other than Gooner bait. This one though, after playing it for a bit over a week, actually has a few things going for it that I liked. That's the thing about dumpster diving incredibly niche games that don't get a lot of attention. You never know what you're going to get. So let's see what it's all about. We'll decide once and for all if Horizon Walker is any good, both as gooning bait and as a game overall. The game is developed by a Korean company called Gentle Maniac, but the fandom page for it says Kuro Games for some reason. From what I can see, this is the only game in their lineup, but maybe they made some smaller games in the past that I'm not aware of. Since we're dealing with a smaller budget, the main story won't be voiced, but most of the more relevant content are voiced. The game originally launched a few years prior in Korea, but it's now available globally since August 2025, and it's on Steam. As soon as you boot up the game, you will see that the game already shows you exactly what you're signing up for. A very good first impression, but how good is the story? You play as the human god, who somehow has manifested as an average dude with an incredibly generic face and outfit. Luckily, you can toggle your hairstyle to something more gentlemanly if you prefer to fully immerse yourself as a self-insert. Landing somewhere in a post-apocalyptic Seoul, you ward off a horde of weird-looking demons. Showing off your impressive combat skills, the nearby elite beauty agent realizes that you must be the chosen one that will lead the vanguard of human forces against the demons. Your player name selection mandates you to have a first and last name, which I don't quite understand why, but okay. The game forces a set of gacha pulls, and the next level pits you against a high-ranking demon. At first, since the boss's health is obscured, I thought it was gonna be like a scripted loss and then the protagonist loses his power, so you have to work your way up again. Nah, that just ruins the power fantasy. You bulldoze through the opponent like it's nothing, black out, and when you awake, you're formally invited to lead the force against the demons, where you'll pick from 4 frontline assistants, and you're off to learn about the state of the world and what fighting the demons entails. Whatever, this doesn't matter. You're not playing this for the story. Your eyes probably aren't even focused on the text half the time. Basically everything within the game sets up the premise as the ultimate power fantasy. The music is incredibly generic. The graphics are fine, though it's not top of its class. Looking in the settings menu, there is a gentle mode, in which the description reads, "This is a mode for gentlemen." In case it's not made clear already, turning this on enables the game at its full glory without any kind of censorship. For me though, I'm gonna have to turn it off for this video so I don't have to put mambo on everything. But if you download the game, the character designs will be more, fierce, let's just say. In terms of gameplay, it plays like a turn-based RPG that's sorta similar to Baldur's Gate 3, but with a lot of complexity stripped down to suit a mobile game format. Even so, despite advertising as a plain and simple Gooner Gacha, the gameplay is more nuanced than I thought. So there's a speed stat that determines the turn limit, of course, and when it's a unit's turn, they have an action point bar that's depleted when they move or perform an action. The thing is that some of these actions cost more AP to use, so it naturally means that if you want to use it, you can't travel as far on the battlefield. On the contrary, if you do nothing and just want a unit to go on standby, then that expends the least amount of AP, meaning they're given the maximum travel distance for that turn. There's a way to change the camera to an over-the-shoulder view. I was at first confused why this is even a thing since the camera is too sensitive and the field of view isn't wide enough to improve the angle on the battlefield. But then I understood that the phrase "changing the view" has a second different definition. Placements can come into play, as when enemies are focused on attacking an ally, if you position another unit so that they're behind the enemy, then they do a guaranteed double damage bonus, which is kinda insane. You can also push enemies around to group them up for AoE attacks. The same backstab attacks also apply to you, so you can also orient your units in a certain direction to prevent them from being backstabbed easily. There's also a counter mechanic, where whenever both you or an opponent attacks, the defender will attempt to perform a counterattack, though it's not guaranteed and the attempt could fail. You also have a wide selection of character kits that fit the roles of attackers, healers, or defenders. This is also one of those games where your protagonists must be on a team at all times, but there's different playstyles that you can assign, like if you want them to play tank or support. During the time I played, while the combat itself was kinda interesting, there was something that caught me off guard that I want to take some time explaining. What surprised me is that the game has an evasion mechanic. As in, if you land a dice roll, it's possible you just negate all damage from an enemy attack. This may seem fairly insignificant, but the more I play gacha games, the more I realize just how bold certain game design choices are. This is more of a thing in turn-based games rather than brawlers or real-time strategy. The thing about game mechanics such as evade, invulnerability, turn skipping, instant kills, or percentage-based scaling are quite tricky to balance in a gacha game, and can be prone to game-breaking exploits. The issue about gameplay design in gacha games is that you're sorta restricted on the degree of freedom a character kit can do. Since the majority of the profits come from selling the characters to you, you have to make it in a way that still makes them unique and powerful, but nothing that can break the balance, so that future units can slightly power creep the older units and drive up sales. Single purchase games don't really care since it's about making the game as fun as it can be. So as long as there's no weird bug or insanely unbalanced mechanics, then the only limitation is the player's creativity. The thing about evades or invulnerability is that you can't power creep this effect. It doesn't matter if the enemy is doing 1,000,000 damage to you, as this just negates everything. Now imagine the game creates a future character that double casts your next skill, and now you have 2 free turns where the enemy can't do anything to you. Due to how certain gameplay effects can't be power crept, it can become a nightmare to balance the game and may restrict certain potential changes made to the gameplay. In Morimans, which I consider to be one of the boldest gacha games gameplay-wise, has effects just like invulnerability, character kits that can stun an enemy for a turn, or percentage-based scaling, like this one that deals damage equal to 30% of the enemy's health. It doesn't matter if the boss has 20 million health, this wipes out almost a third of it. Again, mechanics that can't be power crept are quite risky to put in a gacha game, but I do appreciate it being attempted when I see them. This game doesn't have a stamina system. Instead, it takes a page out of Nikkei's design book and has a passive resource generation that scales off your completion in the main story, so you'd always want to push it as far as you can. The max level for your characters are also limited to your own player level, so you naturally be time-gated gradually before you get to make more progress. The weapon system is also one of those that has a lot more exclusivity, since only select characters can wield certain weapons, sometimes narrowing down the list to just 2 units. Basically Honkai Impact or Punishing Grey Raven. Yes, there's a weapon banner type too, though I'm not sure how impactful those are. You can level the weapon slot as well. I wasn't able to get too deep into it, but there's also a generic 4-slot relic system. I'm guessing this is mostly for min-maxing late game. Your protagonist avatar also has an exclusive progression system where you boost your own stats. Since it's mandatory for the protagonist to be slotted onto a team, I imagine these upgrades can be impactful. One thing I want to note is that the lower rarities in the game aren't entirely useless. Every unit has a cost limit, and a full team can't exceed it. Lower rarities have a lower cost count, so if you manage it right, you can possibly fit another unit in the team. It's also possible to upgrade a unit's tier rarity if you have enough of their dupe tokens. I haven't managed to do this, and I'm not sure how big of a power boost it is. Now, here's one of the main reasons you play this game. The game has put a lot of effort into designing the affection system, as there's actually a lot of things you can do as you progress the relationships. The first feature you unlock is the massage room. This is inspired by something like Snowbreak, and you can get pretty parasocial. Unfortunately, the massage oil doesn't come for free and you actually have to buy it in the shop. Amazing immersion right there. With oil equipped, you can then apply it, creating a wet effect around the area you clicked. It runs out extremely quickly for some reason, and the massage mode by itself doesn't give you any gameplay advantages, well, at least I don't think it does. Maybe I just haven't massaged long enough. The affection level only goes up to 5, but it gets incrementally more difficult to advance it. There's a fairly bare-bones social media mock-up, but at least they put in the effort to put this stuff in. Some of the posts can get meta with jokes that break the 4th wall. You can respond or like the posts. in which that respective character will get a slight affection boost. There's also a messaging system, but it's a bit more than just side banter, as every character has a mini character arc that's only discovered by weaving through all the DMs and group chat messages. I only got to Affection 2 with a character during the time I played, as I suspect they'll be trying hard to sell the Affection system to players. Prepare to get extremely parasocial if you get into this game. Horizon Walker's gacha system is actually kinda unique, and I was at first confused how it worked. Instead of doing traditional 10 pulls, you have to spend either the premium currency or common gold to do a refresh of a list of 5 results, like if it's a character or weapon. If you want to add one of those results into your roster, you then have to pay a token respective to its rarity or an amount in gold. If you didn't roll a result you wanted, you can retry the refresh, obviously costing you more. How it's balanced is that the game will occasionally give you tickets that can be substituted for a refresh, meaning that you can do it for free. There's 5 different rarity tiers: B, A, S, SS, and EX. The Rate Up banner has the EX at 1%, but it doesn't share the pool with anyone else, so the only possible EX character you can get is the Rate Up. If you look at the bottom where you refresh the results, there's a pity for an EX character after 10 refreshes, and an SS after 4. If you get a rare character before the pity, then it resets to 0. So this system is quite interesting, as there's actually some degree of strategy and nuance to the gacha. Since the game won't be giving you a lot of EX recruit vouchers, if you want to add an EX grade character or weapon, you actually have to pay a lot of gold for it. Instead, since gold is also used elsewhere in the game for progression, I imagine that you would have to do some research on which lower rarities are good and prioritize using those, so you'd start out your player journey by saving gold. There's also a weapon banner type. As said before, this system has a weird requirement on who can use what. So if you get a dual pistol weapon, then only units that can use dual pistols can equip it, which tends to be quite a small pool. The weapon system can actually be a bit of a wild card. For example, as they're also mixed into the EX pool within the standard banner, it's possible that an EX weapon appears in your results. Well, if you only have one EX recruit ticket, do you bite the bullet knowing that the weapon might have way less of an impact on your roster than an actual character? Except if you don't claim it, there's no way to refresh the rolls again, and you just passed up the chance for an EX grade item. How generous do they give out this premium butterfly currency? I actually don't know in the long term. I only got a couple hundred in the week I played, which is barely enough to scrape together for one refresh. Although it could also be their intention that you're supposed to just use gold, and this stuff is only for the whales. Even so, I suspect the free butterfly income will be very low. The cash shop is also what you would expect, but I think you're all here for the thing advertised in the intro of this video. There are a lot of skins in the game. I won't be showing the ones that are dangerously revealing, but this game teeters on the edge of being labeled 18+. The list just goes on, and you'll probably find something you like. And yes, there are skins with the adjustable rack size feature, which I'm sure many would appreciate. What's more, you can buy the skins with the butterfly currency, which you can get for free in small quantities. Not only that, another area I found that was somewhat admirable is that the skins themselves don't actually cost that much for what they provide. Yes, the 3D models in the game aren't top quality, but among the sea of Gooner Gacha games charging $20 to $60 for skins, this isn't bad. The regular ones are $500 or just over $300 when on sale, so if you try converting it from the cash shop, it will be around $7 to $8 per piece. You also have a few premium battle passes, and this one costing just over $10 gets you a unique skin and some dupe tokens to ascend the same character. The game knows that you're there to goon, and it's able to provide that at an affordable price. I was fairly close to putting this game in the Dead on Arrival series, but I mean, it definitely surpassed my expectations in some respects. In all honesty, is the game actually good after playing it for a week? Well, no, actually, it's really not. The gacha system has many layers to it that makes it quite troublesome to manage, and it's kinda obvious the game serves as a vehicle to sell affection with the characters and their raunchy skins to you. Although, I do have to admit that the gameplay was surprisingly deeper than what I expected out of a game like this. The cash shop is fair with its pricing, and the gooning technology goes one step further than what I've seen before. Meanwhile, the story, music, progression, and features it has are incredibly generic. Although, it's almost funny how direct it is with its heavy fan service focus, and absolutely not ashamed to be what it is. I'm not entirely sure if the game will survive in the long term, but if you want another gacha game where you're the big boss and live the power fantasy, there you go. Undoubtedly though, I'm sure despite looking quite generic, some people are still gonna go download the game because of this video. Let me know if you play Horizon Walker or which dying gacha game I should try next. I hope to eventually phase out sponsors in place of Patreon pledges, so feel free to support for as little as $2 a month over there. As always, thank you for watching, be sure to spend moderately, and have fun out there.